Oh, we're live, finally. All right, we're good.
Good work.
Phew. All right, sorry everybody in TV land, technical difficulties. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming and thank you for waiting out the technical difficulties. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. The time is now 10:12, and you would we could do a roll call for the directors present. Director Hauser? Here. Director Whiteman? Here. Director McGowan? Here. Director Ownby? Here. Director Jones is here. Staff present, we have legal counsel Bill Ransom and Cassie Austin. Legal counsel is just Bill Ransom. Our administrative assistant is Cassie Austin. And if you would stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 2, approval of the agenda. Anybody see anything on the agenda that they would like to push off the agenda for today, or good with it as presented?
Motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Have a second anywhere on that?
I'll second it.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to accept the agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Director Hauser?
Here.
Yes. Director Whiteley?
Yes.
Director McGowan?
Yes.
Director Ownby?
Yes.
And Director Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And then the minutes. We had a chance to review the minutes. Any issues with them at all? Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve minutes from 7:21.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from 7:21. Roll call, please.
Director Hauser?
Here.
Yes.
Yes.
Director Whiteley?
Yes.
Director McGowan?
Yes.
Director Ownby?
Yes.
And Director Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, moving down to item 4 on the agenda, financial report, treasurer's report.
Mark and I met with Ruth Nelson on Friday, and she gave us some documents and still a little bit of stuff that's unclear. We're going to do a little more research on Friday, and she gave us some documents and still a little bit of stuff that's unclear. We're going to do a little more research and get back with her. I'll read what was written in the budget report when they first did the budget for fiscal year 25-26 for the fire district. Just the last paragraph. The total budgeted resources are $1,626,000, including beginning fund balance of $1,576,000 and interest of $50,000. It doesn't say if it's just that 1 year, 50,000 interest or not. The beginning fund balance is from 2019 from a state grant for rural fire protection district startup costs. The budgeted requirements equal the resources and include a $325,000 budget for materials and services for this fiscal year, which will leave $1,301,000 in reserve for future expenditure. Using a 3% inflation rate year over year, the fund balance will be sustainable for 5 more years, is what she said in there. So going with the $325,000 we have for this year, Mark and I approved paying the election cost, which was $19,000, which dropped us down to $305,956. We also had Ruth write a check for SDAO membership, which brought us down to $305,777.02. The thing I have to clarify were that we have legal fees for this year, fiscal year, and a land survey that totaled $56,140. So when that's subtracted out, we're down to $249,637.02 for this year's budgeted amount. The only thing outstanding after that is the cost that I paid for the post office box, which we'll just wait till we get a bank account for that. And Mark had some costs for the Zoom thing, we just figured we'd wait till we get the bank account set up and take that out. But I will be following up with Ruth on a few questions I had. And Mark and I asked her, we never really got a clear answer on what the interest rate was that we were gaining on this money. So that's something we're going to try to research a little more to try to get more accuracy in what everything is.
Did you have that number about the, we're 249.6 left?
$249,637.02.
Over 2 cents.
That's not including taking the two things I don't know about the Zoom and the people.
And we did discuss with her about once we get the bank account and transfer this year's budget into the bank account, the remaining funds we will put into the LK.
Yeah.
Because it's got the higher. We'll transfer, and she said that she would be able to transfer that right into it for us once we have that.
Do we know what account that money is in right now?
Well, it was in Fund 16, and then she has moved it as of 2025, but it didn't show what fund it went into. It just showed that it was taken out this year.
Fund 73 currently.
73 currently, okay, there you go. So that's where it currently sits. And that's the county cost.
And is she, you said she's open to share where that money's been in the investment as far as interest, interest?
She sent us some documents for each year. Ralph, you have those, right?
Yes.
And it's just not real clear.
Yeah.
It groups it in with the other stuff that's in Fund 16. So the actual interest for just our money isn't shown. It's just showing the total interest. So calculating it down, I actually pulled that up. And if you look at 2020s, just basing on 2020s, the total was in Fund 16 was $4,309,000 and some change. Our 1.5 million was 35.15% of that. So if you calculate 35.15% of the overall interest earned for that, our interest for that year was $14,978 and some change. So we'll have to go through all of it line by line, doing it like that. So then we'll have to go in and get some more clarity of it, because that's not very clear.
Ruth said she was going to do a little more research into it and get back to us on some stuff too. Which is not real clear what he said.
Yeah, it's left too many questions.
Is there a concern if they transfer that money out and then they'll say, oh, that's our, because you're going to in there? Should we make sure that's clear before we transfer that money out? The interest?
The interest, yeah, it showed what's in 73 now should show all the, yeah, that's what's on our budget. It shows 1626 or whatever was the total that our, for the budget committee, it was on the budget sheet.
Yeah.
So then that minus the 325 is what's left over, that all should go into the, that's what should be in the Fund 73 right now.
Because it looks like from 2020 to maybe until the budget committee, there's 5 million stated.
Yeah, there was no interest added to it each time.
Because there should be 1,301,000 in reserve right now, after the 325,000 is taken.
Yeah.
According to her letter. So the bottom line is we've just got to do more,
A little more
break it down,
yeah.
and probably need to break it down.
I think we'll have to meet with her again and kind of find out, because like those paper, like you're saying, Tom, they don't show the interest amount for the following year of what should have been put into that account. It's just a group interest instead of the individual. Like it didn't compound yearly for our account, so. At least not on the paper, so, yeah. Alright, so any more, discussion, concern?
I think that's a great move to transfer our money to the LGIP.
Yeah. We have to first get the bank account and start that process, so that's later in our minutes here today, or our agenda today. All right, anything else? Thank you, Ralph, on that. And we'll move out of the treasurer's report into public comments. The public has 3 minutes to address the board for anything. Do we have any public that wishes to speak today? All right, seeing none, we'll can't do that. Yeah, so for those of you watching, if you would like to comment, if you would notify us through the email address, JCRFPD@gmail.com, 48 hours prior to the meeting, we can give you a Zoom link so that you can join in on Zoom and do your 3 minutes of public comment through Zoom. So that is available. We had nobody reach out for today's meeting, so we don't have anybody on Zoom today. So we welcome your public comment if you're interested in doing so. Please let us know 48 hours prior to the meeting. All right, or come in person. Old business, so phone number. Leave that to you, Director in the phone meeting.
I have not filled out the application, I just saw this morning in TIA.
Okay.
I changed you guys to the VIP status, so your emails will pop at the top.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a VIP status. So I'll take care of that this afternoon.
And then just, let us know what.
I'll wait for their report, they'll basically get back to us and say either how much we need to put as a down security type thing, whatever decision they make, I'll bring back to you guys.
Okay, and Ruth is able to cut us a check if need be.
Okay. Yeah, I'd rather wait until Brandon gets that back to us before we.
Well, right, yeah, so I'm just saying, once you have that, and it says we need X amount of money for a down payment, we can get that invoice to Ruth, and she'll write a check for it. Awesome. Okay, so item 2 on old business, we moved this from last week's agenda because you weren't here, and since you're the staffing committee, personnel committee, so we wanted to wait until you were here. I sent the draft for everybody to view, so if that's something you want to go over now, kind of go through that to see if that's something that we want to proceed with. So let's go leave that up to you.
Yeah, sure. So I did have some follow-up with SDA about some options. I can review those now, or
So we can do that in the committee reports with the SDO. This one was for the, did you see the email at the?
It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, we sent it, came out in the packet for this also. Here, let me grab it. Here. You have it there?
that's it. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So if at this time, if you want to go through that and we can discuss this and then rewrite it, this is just a draft, so I want to see if this works, if this is what you had in mind. And then we can adjust this and then rewrite it, and then we would adopt it next meeting. Whatever we decide to do today, or we can scrap it and go different route.
We tabled it last week.
We tabled it because you were here.
So this is one option that SDAO shared to bring contractor services in. The other options that we have is we can create a assistant deputy clerk board and offer a stipend for that position. And stipend can be determined by the board for a specific number of hours worked. Or be isolated or to the independent contractor agreement. They didn't advise one was stronger position or more protective than another.
Is there any concern for separation? If that has to be separated between that independent or the deputy?
So the deputy clerk is kind of an assigned position. We can review open applications or requests for filling that role. And we assign and can remove based on not only our policy, but OARs, ORSs for district board assistants. Like I said, we can offer a stipend, and I believe the stipend capped at $500. And I don't recall what there's a reason for it being $500. I don't recall what that is, but if we were $500, it's just another.
Is that $500?
That's exactly right. That's it.
Is that $500 per month stipend or $500 per meeting stipend?
$500 per month.
Per month.
Because if you go to those,
You're a independent contractor then?
Which is more
which unless we allow us to have flexibility beyond that $500
right.
and time. We can talk through it a little bit, and it can be so like 30 hours a month-ish, or kind of in that $500 a month pay range, but it doesn't give us the flexibility necessarily to go over that. If we have a really heavy month and needed a lot more support, if you're over those hours, that deputy assistant position, you're $500 period.
Right.
Whereas if you're independent, you got some more flexibility. Now you have to remain over a year as an independent contractor for the hours worked. You have to stay within those hours worked for a calendar year, 12-month calendar year. Just the deputy clerk has less flexibility as far as time and service for that rate of pay.
That would be the concerns that we put jeopardy on that deputy clerk position because of the, especially with all the startups like that.
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable going the route of an independent.
Yeah, I was leaning that way too. After having that discussion, it seemed like a better fit. I'll present that to the board and have a discussion.
Question on the independent contractor, does that fall under, would that person working on our behalf fall under our insurance?
Yes, and that's a person I contact.
So in this, it actually removes them from our.
Yeah, independent contractor, so that was one of the values of being an
Issues and liabilities.
Now we can, if I understood this right, we can add that, we can allow them to be covered under district insurance. But we have to not only include it in this, but also have to make sure SDS said, yes, you can, for liability purposes. But independent contractor, they said it's cleaner if they have their own individual insurance, liability insurance. Deputy district clerk, they fall underneath our insurance automatically.
Right.
As a, not representative of the board, but as a.
Yeah, so then that would also offset our STIS, or STIS, anyway, one of our fees would be offset because now we would have an employee. So that would change. It would also change, what CBA does. So there's all those little things that would affect.
But because our structure is so minimal, those were very minimal.
The expenses, it is.
So it sounds like we should push forward with an independent contractor, especially this beginning stages of our district.
And this was written as a temporary contract just for that reason, because as we grow, then we can transition into an employee right now. So, I don't know if everybody had a chance to review it, but we could go through it in each item and then add or remove in each area if
we're gonna make this.
If we're gonna go this route, then we can go through this now if you'd like and change each section or.
I would do this, and I think structurally it's very well meets our needs right now, the way it's worded. We can still go through it if you'd like.
Well, we'd have to, like on the compensation, we'd have
Yes.
to make those decisions, and then there's a couple other, we'd actually have to make the decision, but if everything else is good, we can make those changes, send it to legal to have them verify that everything's legal, and then, we can, adopt it at our next meeting, if that's the direction the board wants to go.
I agree with that.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, if we're gonna go through this, then, you wanna lead it, Tom, or you want me to?
Yeah. We can, you want this?
You wanna run it since you're the staffing guy, or want me to do it?
No, you go.
All right, so scope of work, everybody's read through the scope of work. Contractor agrees to perform the following administrative services for the district on a part-time contract basis. Prepare and distribute board meeting agendas and minutes, maintain official records and files of the district, assist with correspondence, scheduling, and routine clerical tasks, support board members and staff with administrative needs, respond to public inquiries in a professional manner. Other duties and assigned and agreed upon in writing by both parties.
That's a great caveat. I think you catch on.
Covers all of it there. Compensation, so there's two options. The district shall pay a contractor either X amount of money per hour, not to exceed X hours per month. What, do you think an hourly rate versus a monthly, like the monthly stipend, which we were talking earlier, I think the hourly rate would give more flexibility.
I think for me, the hourly rate too represents the time, effort, and energy committed by the individual who takes this role on. So if we do get, which I suspect the next several months will be heavier need for that assistance, it doesn't put them in a position where this is dollar amount assigned for a monthly stipend and feeling pulled between trying to get things and tasks accomplished as opposed to being compensated for their time engaged in doing those tasks.
Right.
If you go hourly too, you may have to put in a stipulation of some kind of overtime, just in case it did lead into hours that exceeded.
Yeah, we have it's not to exceed blank hours per whatever, like per month.
Unless they work over 40 hours a week. It's not a month, it's 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Then we'd be into that potential for overtime.
So,
But remember, this is independent contractor. so
40 or
we're-
36.
We would be just per OAR, ORS, 40 hour a week.
Yeah. Is it 36 hour or is it 40?
36 hours, now 36 hours, you have to offer some form of benefit
For employees only, not contractors.
I think contract.
Like 1099, I don't get any overtime
Okay.
compensation.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, so it's a contractor, it's up to the contractor, if they're hiring an employee to do that position, and they're the ones that have to compensate for that.
So,
And then the legitimacy of the contractor, registered business name, their own liability insurance,
Yeah.
providing their own tools and equipment.
yeah, that's in here as well. All right, so without objection, we'll go with A, which is the hourly rate. Correct? All right, so now the question is, what is the hourly rate?
Before you do that, let's talk about the hours that we expect.
Or do you need,
Yeah, we could set an hourly rate.
right, and then go.
Yeah, so working backwards right now with it being a little heavy, 2-hour meetings right now a week, 3 hours, plus 3 hours of working outside the meeting. So that's 5 a week, plus 3 hours just to whatever, the email correspondence you request or do. So I was just coming up with like an 8-hour work week currently, which would be a 32 hours a month. Just a rough idea, coming up with something that gets us started, we can always adjust it later.
What are your thoughts on that?
So that was,
All right.
That
That is.
within reason, what you could see time being.
So that's 2-hour meetings, and you think, what was your?
3 hours of work outside the meeting,
3 hour outside meeting.
And a 3-hour flood.
plus 3 hours of other duties,
And then 3 hours of other.
which is 8 hours a week.
Okay. So,
And that average of 32 a month. Obviously, we have 5-week months.
right.
So that would be my first thought, is set the hour per month that you've got on there.
So are we saying not to exceed 8 hours per week, or
Correct.
we do not to exceed 10 hours per week, just in case something takes a little longer?
Or could we just capture it at 40 hours per month?
Not to exceed 40 hours per month, do that. Is that without objection on that, everybody in? 40 hours per month, not to exceed? Okay. All right, so working backwards, not to exceed 40 hours per month unless authorized in writing by the district court president or designing. So now the rate. We're basing it on an 8-hour work week. What is minimum wage now, anyway, $15.75 or something like that?
But that's the flip burger, isn't it?
Oh,
But you gotta remember, as an independent contractor, you're paying them for
right. Well,
everything so that they can pay their taxes and all that,
Right.
so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just, in and out, I think is $19.
I would like to throw out there 25 as an hour start.
I was down 30.
So I'd say 25 to start, and then we can look at adjusting down the road if it's.
Any more discussion on?
It's 1,000 a month.
1,000, actually 1,000 a week, 40 hours a week.
No, 40 hours.
Oh, 40 a month.
Yeah. So without objection, 25 per hour? All right.
Should we pull the audience that has fire business establishment here and see what they do? Or if they can throw some numbers out there.
Chief, what number would you throw out there as administrative assistant?
25 is what I was thinking. Yeah. Because we'd probably be doing, somebody new coming in, we'd probably be looking at about 20, 21 wage, and then
With an expense.
everything on top of it.
Basically.
Yeah, they end up costing you 35 or 40.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, when I hire independent contractors to do tasks and projects and things, a lot of them are temporary projects, they usually pay 30 to 35. But so if they're at your rate,
We're a poor district.
But we'll find some more interest.
That's ironic, you're probably just gotta pay the bill too.
Yeah, so maybe we get a grant for that. All right, so again, without objection, we are $25 per hour, not to exceed 40 hours per month, unless authorized in writing. Okay. We'll move down. Term and termination. This agreement shall commence on, so we need the date. Are we planning to start this? I think the discussion at one point was after the next meeting, because of the hour change required.
The next meeting, so August after.
August 4th is 10 a.m. But then the following meetings, we were going to go to the evenings at 5:30.
We talk about that.
So
August 11th.
So we could,
Was it the first Monday?
yeah, so August 4th is our next meeting. Yeah, so we could technically start, there wouldn't be any requirements for the daytime until the 11th. So we could start it on the 11th, or we could start it prior to that.
Just start on the first of
Out of 10.
Start on the 10th.
That's make it the start of the new week.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Roy, Ralph? No, sounds good. Starting in the contract on the 10th. Okay. All right, without objection, we'll do August 10th. Okay, moving down. Independent contract relationship, contractor shall perform services as an independent contractor, not as an employee of the district. Contractor shall have no authority to bind the district in any way. Contractor shall be solely responsible for payment of all federal, state, and local taxes arising from compensation received under this agreement, including but not limited to income tax, social security, Medicare, and self-employment tax. The district shall not withhold any taxes from contractors' compensation. All right. Page confidentiality. Contractor agrees to maintain the confidentiality of all records, documents, and information received in connection with the district business and shall not disclose such information without the express written consent of the district unless required by law. Insurance and liability. Contractor shall be solely responsible for maintaining any insurance necessary for the performance of this agreement, including general liability and personal injury insurance if applicable. Contractor acknowledges that they are not covered by district insurance or workers' compensation. Miscellaneous, this agreement constitutes the entire agreement between the parties and supersedes any prior agreements. This agreement shall be governed by the laws of the state of Oregon. Any modifications must be in writing and signed by both parties. In witness thereof, and then, so if everybody's good with it as it's been created,
Are you gonna require, proof of registered contracting business name in the state of Oregon?
it's
Kind of legitimizes the contracting body or entity.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a company, but this is an individual, so I don't know that that's really necessary, but,
Yeah, I know, because we use a lot of contractors and the state gets very sticky about, hey, you loaned him a chainsaw. He now became your employee even though he was a legitimate contractor, or they didn't provide liability insurance, or they're not a registered entity in the state, so therefore they are not considered a contractor.
right, and so with this being an individual and not a company or organization that has employees of their own, this is an individual, and I think, and
The rule, you have to be, the rule generally, to be an independent contractor, you generally have to be established in an independent trader business, separate, which means providing services for more than one entity, as a contractor. That's generally what they look at, and if you're providing services for one person, it's more, it's all, it's a scale, right? I mean, how many of these things, if you're buying your own insurance, you're serving lots of people, you have your own independent name, all these things that pushes you on the independent contractor scale. If you're working for only one business, or one entity, they tell you when to be there. It's an hourly rate, not a fixed, it's more like they don't set their own hours. I mean, some of this is stable because some of that you can do on spare time. So it's kind of it's a balancing test, and we've dealt with it on both sides. I mean, and it can be, so the more of those factors you can get on one side, independent insurance business, but it also makes it more expensive for the contractor to operate. Because the contractor's gonna have to file the extra tax documents.
Yeah, we use individual fallers, so that's why I figured, yes, if they're a single entity. Believe me, when it comes down to liability with that kind of thing, they are very sticky about that
so
stuff.
but those followers contract with multiple people. Right?
Yes,
So
yes.
If it's an individual contracting with one entity, then
If they work for other places and do other things, it's probably, I think that still would qualify as an independent contractor. It's a spare time job, it's not a primary employment, but that's kind of, it's like I said, it's kind of it's a scale, and the more factors that point to a independent contractor, the more it's likely, the short-term nature of the engagement, 8 hours a week, that's not really a full-time employment job, right? Or up to, the fact that the contractor can establish their own hours. Yeah, they have to do the meetings, but outside of the meeting time, can they do it whenever they want, or do they have to be somewhere or do something? What's the level of flexibility or freedom? They, have their own insurance, those kind of things. Fallen trees, obviously, there's different kind of liability than clerk, right? it's just not the same thing. But those are all factors that if there was an audit by either the unemployment department or really ODR, those are the factors they look at.
Tom, as the staffing committee chair, what's your thoughts on, should we require that, or as this is written?
Yeah, I think as written is due and sufficient. I don't think they need an independent contractor for purposes of our work as a sole entity of the board. I don't think there's a need to require insurance.
Is there a reason we should put for clarification here that yes, they show us they're registered with the state, that they have a EIN number?
That's what we just discussed.
That's what I'm saying. Should there be a discussion of that in a contract, or is that?
Unless I'm missing something, I do not see that as a need.
I mean, it's such a short-term engagement, and as long as it's not, I mean, if it was 20 hours a week, I'd be more concerned about it. 8 hours a week, flexible schedule, those things, I mean, you don't need an EIN to pay an independent contractor, social security number. It does mean their taxes are a little more complicated, and obviously have to pay their own self-employment insurance. So that way, just.
I think if you establish an agreement that stipulates everything that you're talking about and the relationship is understood what their role is and the do's and the don'ts within the role, I think that's gonna be a strong enough binding agreement.
I think at this point, you're probably okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what this does.
If you expand it, you should really look, keep it on your radar, because if you expand it or provide additional control or hours or schedule things like that, you have a different issue, I think.
Right.
This is temporary until
And
it's.
this is, and yes, and this is a temporary part.
The secret's in that information is gonna be on there.
Right,
So I think you have to start until we transition to
correct.
employees.
Okay.
So I think this meets that. I don't think we need to overcomplicate it by protecting legally for a short duration of time, knowing that our end state is employee.
Correct. All right, so, let's do this as I entertain a motion.
I make the motion that we send that forward to legal as we drafted today.
I second that.
That meaning, the independent contractor agreement, sorry.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second to approve, let's see, let's clean this up actually. How did you present it?
Make a motion that we approve and move that agreement to legal.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second to approve this agreement, move it to legal for cleaning.
For the review,
For the
for our next
review.
meeting. We
For
can't
the
sign
review,
it.
and then, okay. So, motion and a second to move forward with this agreement.
Any discussion?
Any discussion?
None further.
All right.
Roll call. Director Hauser,
Yes.
Director Weidling,
Yes.
Director McGowan,
Yes.
Director Ownby,
Yes.
and Director Jones.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, so I'll just make those changes that we discussed here, and I'll send it over to you, sir. Okay. Okay, made it through that. All right, so, new business. Item 7, authorize bank signers. So, we will need to have this in the minutes in order to open the bank account and have signers. So, today we need to discuss who will be the signers on the account, and all agree upon that. I believe we should have at least 3, since most checks are gonna require 2 signers. That way we always have somebody. Generally, and we could do this however, but, obviously, Director Wyden needs to be on it since he is the treasurer, so. And I guess the president, so we should do it by position. So treasurer and president would be 2 of them. Who would you like to have?
I would like to make the motion that we just make it the board of our board, so vice president, president, and treasurer, so that way down the road, when those positions change, we don't have to put up the signature.
Right.
There's no discussion, it's just, that's who it is.
I'm good with that.
I'll second that.
So did you make a motion for that?
If I need to, I can make a motion, and it's the treasurer, vice president of the board.
Okay,
He did it, seconded.
and a second, okay. So we have a motion and a second to make it the president, vice president, and treasurer as the three authorized signers for the bank account. And any discussion? All right, take the roll, please.
Director Hauser?
Yes.
Director Wiley?
Yes.
Director McGowan?
Yes.
Director Owenby?
Yes.
And Director Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and then once we have our approved minutes after next meeting, we can take the approved meeting minutes to the bank and get that done. So it's unfortunate, it's a long process, but it has to, that's the only way that the bank will add the signatures. Okay, so item B, meeting procedures. So I just threw this out, just so that everybody's on the same page. Copied some stuff from Robert's Rules of Order, kind of help us as we go through, and mainly to have you guys keep me in check and make sure that I'm saying the right thing. So this is just what we had adopted in our 3.7 of the board duties policy. And then the printout of the cheat sheet for Robert's Rules, and I just want to make sure everybody had that, so we included that. So you guys can keep me in line and make sure that I'm saying the right things at the right time. All right. Any questions or discussions on that? All right. Okay, moving down to item 7C, committee reports. So staffing, this is, I know you started bringing it up earlier, anything more with that?
No, we got accomplished along with our assistant.
Communications?
Still working on, the one thing I was thinking earlier, with the earlier to get online, is a thought, Starlink makes a mobile, satellite. And I have Starlink at home, and it's as fast as it was in my office at Firehouse years ago. It is instant, and it can travel with you with the remote.
Yeah, we use the remote on fire, so Starlink remote is a really awesome unit. Yeah, just, you can plug it into the inverter in your truck and you're rock and rolling.
It's about $500 for the equipment and a minimum of $50 a month.
It's 550
Yeah, it's roughly 500 if you find on sale cheaper, but that's the equipment, and then you can,
a month.
50 a month, where you can turn it on and off if you need it. So you pay for 30 days, regardless if you turn it off at 10, you still pay for that 30 days, you get it for 30 days. So I have one for my water truck, and I turn it off at 1 time, so I pay for the $50. But
The service is amazing.
Yeah,
It's super fast,
works that way, no matter where we hold our meeting, we'd be able to get on.
as long as it's not covered in,
Yeah, no latency.
even outside of our
There's the plugins up and moving coverage.
yeah, literally,
All right.
goes on top of my water truck, and I have internet anywhere now. That's where.
Okay. All right, so that's something we need to,
And I can also ask, when I talk to the resident lady today, about their options, because they're starting to come up with some satellite.
yeah, I know they have a home hotspot thing, but I don't know how well that works. It's like, I can hear my Verizon's having difficulty getting on, so.
The Starlink has some purchasing options as well.
Does it? All right,
This one.
we will look into that.
yeah, I can look into that.
Okay. Ralph? Or, sorry, Director Belch. Okay, all right, and then communication wise, the Zoom is up and running, like I said, earlier, we do have that option now, so, since I got the technical issues today, we'll hopefully not have that next meeting, but the Zoom is up and running, so we have that, we have the YouTube page, which is working right now. Okay, and then anything else for communications?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, policy and policy committee that you and I serve. I
Right.
sent you a couple
Yeah,
of
two things on the
things to go over today. So in our,
By the way, it's a pretty good today.
yeah, let me see here.
First one is
We'll go-
purchasing contract.
Yeah, we'll go over them. Let me let's move on to the consideration committee. So Director Whiting and myself were on that, and we were discussing that, we'll meet after he returns from his vacation and, make some more adjustments to that, so.
We don't have the information on the start to, I've got time when I'm on the trip to research something, so I'll work on the information on that.
And just, and we weren't here last meeting, but the consideration committee is, the committee working for, what we want to present back to, rural metro for the 90-day, consideration of some sort of compensation to the board, to the district, I mean.
So,
To the district.
in that agreement, it says it'll come up to
Yeah,
90
90 days.
So they get somebody to look at it before they can.
So the consideration committee is meeting to determine what that looks like. Okay, any more discussion on committee reports? Okay, moving down to the purchasing or contracting policy review. So these are some other, this one and the next one are both policies that we need to have in place. We did just agree on a contract and, deal with it. So purchasing and contracting policy, purpose of this policy is to establish clear, consistent, and compliant purchasing and contracting procedures for the Josephine County Rural Fire Protection District. This policy ensures transparency, fiscal responsibility, and legal compliance in acquiring goods, services, and public improvements. Authority of this policy is adopted pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute, Chapter 279A, 279B, 279C, and authorizes the district to adopt its own contracting rules to the extent permitted by law. So definitions, a little section there, public contract, personal services, public improvement, legal contract review board. Contracting officer says the fire chief or their designee is the district's designated contracting officer and is authorized to enter into contracts on behalf of the district within the spending limits and rules defined herein. General purchasing rules, competitive procurement thresholds. So this can be adjusted. This is just a draft. This is what's thrown out there. A micro purchase is up to $10,000. No quotes required. Reasonable price must be ensured. Small procurements are $10,001 to $50,000. Minimum of 3 formal quotes recommended. Intermediate procurement is $50,001 to $150,000. Documented competitive process required. And then a formal procurement is over $150,000 and a formal competitive bidding or RFP is required. So those can be adjusted however the board decides.
Intermediate, I think procurement was competitive bidding process. So the one before intermediate.
The intermediate.
Yeah, intermediate. Yeah, so what's a competitive process
Documented competitive process.
other than RFP?
So, great question.
So generally what we do is the contract is over 25, for regular, the statute that for intermediate procurements is anything over 25 but not over 250,000 allows you to This is ORS 279B070. It's, you get 3 competitive proposals or bids, at least 3 informally solicited competitive price quotes or proposals from prospective contractors. You have to keep records of the sources. If 2 of the 3 aren't available, you got to document why you
So
do
we would basically we just go out and say,
Yeah, you give us, how much would it cost to pay this?
3 different companies and say, what is your bid, what is your, so that'd be a documented competitive process.
Right.
Well, also, I think competent contractor, you get a lot of people that jump into these bids that have no business being involved in these bids whatsoever.
Yeah, you don't have to award it to the lowest price on that one. If you go over 200, even if you go over 250, you do the RFP process and you can still, you don't, that's a consideration, but it's not, that's, might be part of the weight, but it's not the, you can look at everything.
It's just more formalized.
Yeah.
So the process required would technically be our rules, that we have the 3 documented bids.
Yours are
We
low.
decided on this one, and then we keep it on file.
Yeah,
Process.
yours are lower than these limits are lower. So the 10,000 direct procurement is actually higher than that for whatever. I mean, personal services contracts usually 50,000, but 25,000 to 250 is intermediate. You've got it over 150,000 as full request for proposal. As long as it's lower, it's fine. It just can't be higher.
Just can't be higher. Right, and so with that, looking at this now, and then you had mentioned too that the intermediate one was 25,000. Should we change small procurement from 10 to 50 and make that 10 to 25, and then do intermediate 25 to 150?
I would say with the current state of our budget, where it's at, we keep it low.
Yeah.
Because that percentage based on what our annual budget is, you're going for, you can spend the budget.
Right. There's nothing wrong with getting some proposals and making sure you get the best deal. I would say doing a direct contract and document it. That's fair for everybody. Even if it was small, you'd probably do that.
Keep it as is, or change the 15 to 25?
I'd leave it as.
I believe it as is, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The problem is the cost of services in more days, that we don't back when it's gonna be $15,000, so.
Yeah. Okay, all right, so leaving those where they're at, number 6 is exemptions from competitive bidding. Exemptions include sole source procurement, emergency purchases, cooperative agreements, and professional or personal service contracts under 150,000. Personal and professional services, contracts for personal services may be awarded using qualification-based selection over 150,000, requires formal RFP unless exempt. Public improvement contracts to comply with ORS 279C include prevailing wage compliance, bonding if required, and public notices for projects over $200,000. Emergency contracts, fire chief may act without formal procedures in emergencies. A report must be submitted to the board at the next meeting. Number 10, contract administration. Contracts must be in writing, legally reviewed if applicable, and include scope, pricing, and termination. Performance monitoring is required. Ethics and conflict of interest. Personnel shall follow ORS Chapter 244. No one with personal or financial interest may participate in related procurement decisions. Number 12, records and retention. Maintain all procurement records per public laws and district policies. Board review and approval. Board approval is required for contracts over 150. It's 150,000. Real estate transactions and competitive bidding exemptions. Policy review. This policy shall be reviewed every 3 years or as needed to remain compliant and effective. So, any more discussion on that?
On number 9, should that also indicate that it's not to exceed the yearly budget? The emergency.
Form of procurement emergencies.
Well,
Well, if it's an emergency though,
we might need to go into contingency.
we might have to go and do a contingency on the budget and change our budget.
Should we indicate that in there though, that if it does exceed the yearly budget, that a contingency amendment would be warranted, or?
as an
I
automatic.
think it's, yeah, I believe that would be automatic, because we can't spend more than our approved budget without contingency. Yeah.
Well, I was just looking at the fact that it's presented at the following meeting after it's been done.
Well, let me just give you an example. We have a major wildland incident and we need to use their support. We're gonna blow, just requesting it is gonna take our entire annual budget. But that would be a decision that the fire chief could or needs to happen right now.
Right.
So send it, and then we'll come back to have the discussion. Yes, this was an emergent need to save life and property.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing with the emergency, there's going to be, I mean, if we put too many restrictions on that emergency, then the time delay, we just handcuff them. Or, yes.
Well, I just don't want it to be like, Oregon Department of Forestry last year, 900 million in the hole and don't know where any money's at. So if you guys experience that as a contractor, we're still looking for money from last year.
I think it's gonna put too much contingency on the chief to be able to act in the moment. If we describe it out too well, it's just the requirement's gonna be, you need to report for your decision making.
Yeah.
Before the next
We
meeting.
can move forward with
Right.
decisions.
And the chief's gonna know what
Can
our
we-
budget is and what he's gonna have to come and present for a contingency.
Because we don't meet regularly outside of this, should we put a business day limit on that it should be to the board for the next meeting? Because if we only meet once a month, it could be a 30-day process. And
We could add that.
So-
Do you have maybe a notification, and then you can call a special meeting or something to
Yeah,
review it?
we could.
If you have a notice, and so if there's, immediately upon the emergency, you should notify the board, and that way if you need to have a special meeting.
within hours, because
Yeah, I mean, with that,
if we take something that they just dealt with last week, is the board Cheney fired, and that key to that moment, trying to.
You're right, as soon as reasonably possible.
That's
Well,
classic,
and then-
probably the next day, so I'd say within 48 or 72 hours.
As soon as reasonably possible.
Yes. And if the board can't meet because of who knows, then maybe Mark should have the override.
Well, that would give you authority, well, I don't know about that, I don't think you can do that, but you could have, you certainly could have the board notified, upon the use of the emergency powers, and then the board can say, hey, we need to have a meeting about this, we need
Then it
to
has to get-
address this, we need to stop this, there's money being wasted, there's money not being used, or whatever that might be, you have notice, opportunity to have a special meeting or your own emergency meeting, in that case, to deal with the emergency.
You said as soon as reasonably.
Possible, yeah, that seems fair. I mean, because if you can't do it right away, I mean, that's, what is this, I mean, it's not a real deadline, because, that's not, like you said, I may not be.
I'd still feel better if we put a business day limitation.
24 hours or something, 40 hours.
I'd say 40,
As soon as reasonably possible, but not later than 48 hours or something.
72 hours for 3 days.
72 hours.
You have a day and a half of burnout, you don't want to try to write.
I think you want to say, I think you put both in there, as soon as reasonably possible, but no later than 72 hours.
72.
That way, encouraging you want to know right away, but,
And it's not that we're going to make a decision, we're just being gratified, this is done.
right. And that gives you the ability to call a meeting.
Remember, fire doesn't have a time limit on it.
Okay, so,
Well, and it's going to be,
Burn, it's
make the decision, it's still on fire for 3 days. So that could be, or as reasonably possible.
so I amended it to be, the fire chief may act without formal procurement, the fire chief may act without formal procedures in emergencies. A report must be submitted to the board as soon as reasonably possible, but no later than 72 hours. Does that make sense? Does that sound good?
After authorizing the procurement, is that?
That's after, may act without formal procedures, and then has to.
Okay, that would be action. Okay,
Afterwards, after action, yeah. Okay. Anything else in any of those? Any other sections? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve as amended.
Motion to approve as amended.
I'll second it. Yeah, so actually we need to add the title of it in there. So,
Motion, all first page, motion to accept purchasing of which in the contracting rules policy has
Thank you. And then I'll second it. Second, all right, so I have a first and a second on approving the purchasing and contracting rules policy as amended. And any more discussion? And roll, please.
I'm sorry. Director Hauser,
Yes.
Director Weidling,
Yes.
Director McGowan,
Yes.
Director Ownby,
Yes.
and Director Jones.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. And so next meeting, this will be rewritten and we'll have a resolution to adopt this, so. Okay. All right, now down to item E, new business. We have the public records request policy. Date on here. Is- Okay. All right, so purpose of this policy. This policy is adopted to ensure that compliance with Oregon Public Records Law, ORS 192.001 to 192.478, and to provide members of the public with clear guidance for requesting access to public records maintained by the Josephine County Rural Fire Protection District. Records custodian, the fire chief or designee is designated public records custodian for the district. The custodian is responsible for managing and responding to public records requests. Number 3, submitting a request. Requests must be submitted in writing and should include name and contact information of the requester, a detailed description of the records requested, preferred format receiving the records, whether it be electronic or paper. Acknowledgement, number 4, acknowledgement and response time. The district will acknowledge receipt of the request within 5 business days as required by ORS 192.324. A full response or an estimated completion date will be provided as soon as practical, but no later than 15 business days unless otherwise permitted by law. Number 5, fees and charges. The district may charge a fee to recover the actual cost of making records available, including staff time required to locate, review, and redact records, photocopying or printing costs, postage or delivery charges, electronic media, i.e. USB drives. The cost estimate will be provided before fulfilling the request. The district may require payment in advance. 6, fee waivers or reductions. The district may waive or reduce fees if the request is determined to be in the public's interest, as defined in ORS 192.324, Section 5. 7, confidential and exempt records. Some records may be exempt from disclosure under Oregon law. If records are partially exempt, non-exempt portions will be provided with appropriate redactions and explanations. 8, appeals. If request is denied, the requester may petition the Josephine County District Attorney for review under ORS 192.407. Records retention. All district records will be retained and disposed of in accordance to the Oregon State Archives Records Retention Schedule. Review and amendments. This policy is reviewed every 2 years or as needed to ensure continued compliance with Oregon law. So with that, do you have any concerns on any of the sections? It's all basic based on Oregon Fire statutes.
The only question I have is for section 5 fees and charges.
Yes.
Because we're not setting something, is that leave that open to the future chief and admin to be able to say, this is what we charge?
Correct.
Oh, good.
Anything with that? All right. Well, I would,
May I?
Huh?
May I?
yes.
At some point when there is a district website, it's pretty important to have those fees listed somewhere on the website as well.
What's the website?
So if there are fees established, it needs to be posted on the website publicly.
Well,
But it's not something really to put in the policy, it's.
No,
no, but they just need to be posted.
yes, just to keep that in mind.
So policy-wise, it doesn't need, the fees don't need to be written into the policy. The fees just need to be posted.
Maybe under section 5, where you say cost estimate will be provided before fulfilling the request, you can put in there that cost will be noted on.
The fire chief shall have authority to determine, say that is just determine a schedule for fees. and-
Basically what she said.
Yeah, so the cost estimate would be depending on the fee. So,
Fees will be posted on the website.
so the district, so under 5, the district may charge fees to recover the actual cost of making records available, including blah, 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 blah. And then down here, before a cost estimate will be provided, we should put current fees will be displayed on.
Posted publicly.
Posted public, there you go, current fees will be posted publicly.
I had a question about, the reviews and the amendments. Under the ORS statutes, is it possible that something could change prior to that 2-year review and amendment process?
Yes, and that's why the little pieces in there that says, or as needed to ensure continued compliance with Oregon law. Because, but that's gonna be up to us to make sure that, you know, we're reviewing that as new legislation comes out. Did that change this, so that then we would have to adopt it? If there's no change in state legislation,
We
then
still need to read it.
we would have to review it every 2 years. And then the other one was every 3 years. All right, so, I would entertain a motion about, approved as amended.
I'll make the motion to approve the public records request policy with the amendments.
Second.
I have a first and a second to approve the public records request policy as amended. Any more discussion? Roll, please.
Director Hauser,
Yes.
Director Weidling,
Yes.
Director McGowan,
Yes.
Director Ownby,
Yes.
and Director Jones.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, so item 7F, computer, camera, and microphone purchase. So, since we're not real technically savvy and we have some issues with things and the way things are set up, and hopefully this microphone is actually picking up. We have no idea if people can actually hear us today. We'll find out. But having a district computer and one of those automatic tracking devices like the OWL, doesn't necessarily have to be now, they do have other ones, so that we can do these Zoom meetings. And yeah, so I did look, I pulled up some stuff for a Dell laptop, and they range $400 to $1,000 for one that would work for us. And then the camera microphone combo, which there's a OWL 3, which is $1,049, or the new OWL 4 is $2,000. Yeah. New OWL 4 is $2,000. There is some off-brand ones that I don't know how well they work. I've only ever seen the in-house. They have some that you would have to remotely control to spin the camera around. They are much less expensive. They were in the $200 to $300 range. But that's something that, even though it is underneath our purchasing agreement amount, but those are things that I think the board should decide on if we want to purchase those. To make sure, because personally I don't keep using my own.
Yeah, so I'd make a motion that we purchase some needed technology equipment to operate our meetings, broadcast our meetings, record our meetings. If that motion is included Dell, or I would just say we approve up to, up to $4,000.
Well,
What we do.
we don't, yeah, we don't want to.
I'm just saying that we just decide what policy.
So let's break it down. Do we want to go with the brand new OWL, or do we want to go with last year's version of the OWL? Because there's $1,000 difference in that price between the new version versus the old version.
When it comes to technology, I'd say we defer to the new version.
What's the difference? What is updated in the new one?
Some didn't really get into it.
Yeah, well, AI is now a big thing, so it has AI to help tracking and zooming in, and I mean, I'm sure it works better than the other one. I mean, I've seen some of the older owls that, like here's a person talking, but it won't turn to them. So I imagine these are upgraded to be more sensitive to tracking. I didn't really dig into the details of it.
It's not spotted.
It's not spotted, it's not a spotted owl.
I think it'd be better to start with newer technology, so we're not behind the game and have to spend money later.
Okay. Okay,
And then as far as the
a laptop
making sure that
that'll handle.
handle that,
So,
speed or whatever.
yeah, so we'll do that at the higher RAM and then, larger hard drive. Okay, so, with the laptop to specifications.
Well, the hardware, and person.
And then a case, yeah, okay, and then a case.
Yeah, probably a mouse.
Pad, we need a pad for the mouse, needs a place to stay. Okay, all right, so what we can do is we can work this up, get an invoice from wherever we're purchasing it from, and have Ruth cut the check for it.
It's something to think about, Mark, because you ran into it the other day at, the Parkview station, was having enough USB ports. So we need to get the extra.
Or make sure the laptop
Plug in.
has multiple, yeah,
Yeah.
so possible, USB hub. Okay. Alright. So I have, the new version of the Owl laptop, to handle, the requirements, case, mouse, USB hub,
Probably some connectivity cords,
and it's maybe extra,
HDMI or future widget.
yeah, USB, HDMI, and then maybe, an extension cord.
Yeah, I have no problem. That way also can sit on top of the computer.
Okay, and then so, hand truck to carry all this stuff. All right,
Are you gonna be, is there gonna be a need for an external monitor? Or is the laptop gonna be suffice? Because when we have public comment from people that are coming in on Zoom, we should have a monitor to be able to see that person. Not necessarily just a laptop.
right, but if we're using the owl to track the people here, we would have the we could have the laptop on the table, right?
Well,
Or do we have a separate Bluetooth monitor?
I don't know, it's something to consider, because as we have public commenters, if we do down the road.
Because Zoom will automatically typically pull up the individual's profile and student.
Oh, right, but we wouldn't have any way for the public to see the person speaking. Okay, so that's what you're, okay, so. Yeah, how big would everything, who's toting around the 80-inch TV?
Maybe to a small box.
So we want like a Bluetooth monitor then that we can put whoever's on Zoom out so the public can see the person speaking. So we want
Let's say, look at whatever,
Bluetooth or just.
your projector,
Oh,
like I said, like how we're here, it's
Yeah.
a neat spot, but
we could do a projector,
lights might be an issue.
yeah.
I can
So
monitor
let's
these
just do,
too.
yeah, let's do some Bluetooth monitor. Okay, I'll get a package together, and so do you want me to bring this back to the board with the total, or just move forward with having you send it?
We just did nice. We're adopting the policy that says you can go to 10,000.
Yeah,
So it's not adopted yet, but
all right,
as long as it's
So-
within the spending limits.
yes. However, since we'll be spending money, I would entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the required
I'm going to disagree with the motion. It's going to be difficult because we don't have the items in front of us.
item.
Without objection, we can
Without
send it forward.
objection, send me forward, all right. That works. So I'll make sure I have the board approval to do so, and it's recorded, so we're good. Okay, all right, any more discussion on items 7F? Good. All right, FDID checklist. So, the darkened portions are what I believe we've already, the darkened portions are what I believe we've already handled at the top. The bottom section serves as assistant to the state fire marshal and structural firefighting capabilities. My question is, since we are under a service agreement with Rural Metro, are they considered, does our contract with them meet these requirements from the state fire marshal? So I would, actually, if they're willing to be put on the record. So the FDID requirements, basically serve as an assistant to the state fire marshal, which includes provide records, administer investigations, administer building inspections, and then be prepared to comply. Our service agreement our service agreement with Rural Metro, does that suffice for meeting that requirement for our FDID number?
So if you specifically called it out, because it's two different statutes. So ORS 478 is dealing with fire district matters. ORS 476, which is identifying the fire chief as the assistant to the state fire marshal,
Yes.
is a different statute. So the agreement would need to call out those functions and specifically identify them as Rural Metro is going to handle these functions on behalf of the fire district, because they're two separate laws.
Right.
And so you have to call it out specifically. If it's not called out specifically, then you have not granted them that authority to do that.
The agreement does.
The agreement,
Does.
it is in the agreement, yeah. But it may not call it out as ORS 476.210 or 090, so we would need, okay. So if we created, or we have to create some sort of addendum that actually signifies that they are providing this for us, the 476090, the 476210, and then also the second section of that is the structural firefighting capabilities, which is ORS OAR 437-002-0182, section 3. And it has some other lists here as well, but if we have an addendum that calls us out specifically, that would meet the requirements for our FDID number.
Yeah, because then you're basically granting them the authority from the fire district. Right now, you are the AHJ because you don't have the fire chief identified.
Right.
Which my understanding, you don't have the fire chief identified.
Right.
And by statute, the law identifies the fire chief as the assistant to the state fire marshal. Is how ORS 476-030-150 is written.
Right.
It says the fire chief of the municipality or fire district is considered by the assistant to the state fire marshal without any additional recompense. So that's who that is. So what you probably want to look at is your ability to, can you contract that position of the fire chief? How does that work? With Rural Metro, and can they fulfill that role? And then that's where those authorities come from our agency to the law. They go to the fire chief or their designee.
Right.
So
we still have to have the fire chief as part of it. So that's something we're still waiting on. So that fire chief position would handle the AHA portion of it. However, the structural firefighting capabilities, and then serving as the assistant to the state fire marshal, those two items, we would need to show that Rural Metro is providing that for us.
Right, and so what we would do is we would want to sit down and do what we do this with every fire department in the state. We would want to sit down and do what we call plan of cooperation. It's not a legal agreement. It's sitting down going, how are you deciding to handle fire investigations? How are you deciding to handle plan review, fire inspections? How do you want to handle that so that it identifies how much assistance we have to provide to the district, and how that cooperation is going to work and how we're working together. We can only do these types of inspections. Can the state fire marshal office do the other inspections in our area? So you just have to, it just kind of comes down to, we'd be happy to assist you guys with put that all together. You just have to decide what level of service you want to provide. You may say, we don't have the ability to do any of it, and then we're doing it as a state. So we just have, it's just kind of doing that, but it's an authority thing, because you guys are the HJ.
Right.
You've contracted with Rural Metro to provide operation services with you. If you're also wanting them to provide those services identified under ORS 476, you just want to identify that in their agreement.
Is it possible to identify them as or in this case, Chief Nelson is the chief serving in that agreement?
You can't get the conflict of interest of having them under an agreement for the district. You need to have that go between, you can't have the chief of our contract be the chief of the district.
So can't the board though for this purpose serve as the
As the fire chief.
Yeah.
Technically, it would fall to the,
Designate.
yeah.
So, two things you're looking at here. One, the protection services agreement that we've signed with Rural Metro is operational. Correct. It doesn't say in there that they do investigations, inspections, or
No.
state farm marshal stuff. I would hate to go back and ask them, oh, by the way, can you do this too? Because that is an extra procurement cost out of
Right.
budget costs, and then have to be negotiated. Some, maybe you guys could look at it in that 90-day thing. But we need to look at, let's move forward with the state farm marshal as a district in that area. The only thing that I have concerns, and you guys might be able to kick in, is something like board training, no configuration, things like that. Is if we don't plug you guys in as that, working with the state farm marshal, does that handicap you making that decision?
I think as long as we can get hold of you or Mark or somebody,
In that behalf of the capacity.
yeah, because one of you are the ones having to sign
The
that
declaration.
declaration.
So the three things that we still have to do in order to even get the FAA is obviously the fire chief, but having physical headquarters within the district. So it's still not gonna be about just trying to get ahead of this to know what we need to do, because without the FDID number, we can't start trying to get grants. And to move forward, we need to get,
Yeah, I think once you identify the chief, 'cause- and that's what I think they're referring to, the assistant to the state fire marshal part of it, is basically this, ORS 478 is basically this, ORS 478 call that you have to have a chief. And so they're following through that, like, okay, we have to have this, we have to have this, we have to have, everything that's calling on 478, they're putting on that list. So you can have, get that FDID number. And then the other thing you're gonna want to do, because Rural Metro has that FDID number assigned to them for reporting purposes, is you're gonna take, are they gonna give you that FDID number, or are you gonna have a different one? Because now the reporting requirements technically by law fall to the district, or not to Rural Metro, they never fall to Rural Metro, but they fall to the district. And so, and that would be a discussion with good to get that, talk with our data analytics unit who does all of that stuff, to find out the easiest, cleanest way to do that, to still capture everything from the past and everything moving forward on there.
I think it's better to keep theirs as existing, let's get rid of it, just because.
but then there would be a requirement of them submitting it to both FDIDs.
But here's the problem, they work in more than one fire district. So I would recommend we get our own number,
Right.
allow them, I mean, not allow, but let them keep continuing on reporting to that one, we'll have our own.
That's
Making
what
sure we're
I'm
not
saying.
duplicating reports.
That's what I'm saying, they would have to report incidents that are in our district under our FDID. So they would technically be having to do two FDID, to report to two.
But that would throw off the stats, we would already have those numbers we want.
Yeah. In their fire, in their reports, they have to give location.
Right.
So that's where they could say the location was.
So then it would
Josephine
be up to
County.
us to do our own FDID reporting then, for what's in our, because if you're responding to more than one rural fire protection district.
We can choose in a drop-down box what FPID it's sending out. So that's not an issue. If you work it out and the district has an FPID, we'll just put that as the default.
For that area.
For that area.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would prefer we don't assume we're taking theirs.
No, we have our own,
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely need our own.
Yeah, you have one slated for us when we get all of our limits in place.
I heard that.
So, based on our list, it sounds like the chief is the hinge point right now, of moving
The
forward.
chief and the physical headquarters,
So,
because the bonding one is happening now, it's in underwriting, so.
The question we had last week, when we were talking about different positions, and obviously we have what we just talked about today, is there a temporary program through the state that would help us in the system of assigning a chief until we get it appointed? So there is SSDO, this is not uncommon, they will, through our contract, the state will give us an interim, will provide to us an interim fire chief for their configuration, we see. See that in one of our students' option.
What is that cost?
yeah, that's the big, that's the parameters.
So that'll be on. There will need to be more discussion on that because it's part of being members of SDAO, that is something they offer. And with our limited need right now, meaning we just more or less need a liaison and someone to fill that title so that we can continue moving forward. It's very limited, but they did not put a dollar amount to it.
As Chief Nelson just said, we just need somebody that wants to fill them now.
Yeah.
Immediate time we need to say go. So there is some things that aren't limited.
Well, even that's, I mean, respective to the rules of the fire chief, that's right, limited need.
Correct.
By phone. So, if we want to explore that as a more permanent solution with SBO, is that what you suggested? I don't see a whole lot of other options other than creating that.
If we were to put something out for, like an advertisement asking if there's anybody local who may be retired that would want to be an interim chief under a contract. That's a temporary kind of thing.
That's what I was wondering if the state had, that interim assignment. Usually they have local people in the area that are part of that are retired.
Yeah, which they usually runs through SBO.
Yeah.
Runs
We
through
should
that.
probably follow.
If you want to
Not
go
first, but
through SDAO, or through as a board, as a private contract.
I would suggest we really lean heavily on SDAO because they provide the overhead protections and liabilities.
Right.
I mean, I know we are licensed to bond there, but not licensed to bond. I'm sure.
It's still in underwriting.
Well, we joined that core reason, and that option's there, let's hope they can run that.
Yeah, so they should be getting the check anyway. Who was just cutting it on Friday, and they said once they receive the check, we are officially members.
So we need to make that a priority, because it sounds like
the hinge of a lot of things.
Yeah. And then,
Closet.
Well, interestingly enough, Dutch Brothers has a very nice facility that they moved out of. It's great.
are they looking to make a deal?
I started to open the door of that possible conversation.
All right, any more discussion on our FDID checklist?
It's true, that's,
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Any more on the FDID checklist? Okay. Item 7H, legal counsel attendance. So I put this in there just to see, I know we've had legal counsel at all of our meetings due to the executive session requirements. Do we want to continue having legal here at all our meetings for us to bounce legal questions off of as needed? Or
I think only.
depending on the agenda item?
Pending agendas.
Yeah, because we're just forming, there is still stuff we,
You don't need me here for a lot of this, I think. You guys can take care of it. You're doing great. I mean, if you have questions and stuff, we can follow up and, we can deal with, directly.
All right, any more discussion on that? We'll just do it as needed per agenda.
So if we know something's a hot topic coming up, if we don't have it here, sure.
For agenda items. Okay. All right, any more discussion on legal counsel attendance? Seeing none, we'll move to 8, correspondence, review of emails, letters, documents received. Let's see. So I did receive an email directing me to a new piece of state legislation, HB 3940, which basically, let's see, so it says that Section 34, ORS 478.010 is amended to read, a rural fire protection district may be formed in the manner set forth in 478.010 to 100. And it states in here on Section C, which is the one that was not really concerning, but just something that was changed here. Forest land to include forest protection district under 477.205 to 281 unless the owner consents and notifies the rural fire protection district. However, forest land protected pursuant to 477.205 to 281 and not exceeding 5 acres of one ownership shall be included in the rural fire protection district without owner's consent of ownership, if the ownership includes any structures subject to damage by fire. So this sounds very similar. It goes through a whole bunch of it to read. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but basically it sounds bring up so that legal understands that that's out there now as well. So it's a little concerning that they can just go in and pull it into the fire district without owner's consent. So just wanted to bring that up to everybody's attention. So maybe it's something to follow along with. So additional matters of the board. This is the open floor for the board for reports, requests, or comments from the board.
So Mark, under, when you and I talked, after meeting with Ruth, you're gonna go ahead and move forward with getting the bank account open while I'm gone, and then I can add myself to the signature thing when I get back.
Yeah, so we can't open the account until we have the minutes approved, and the minutes will be approved after our next meeting. And so once I have the approved minutes showing who the signers are, then Greg Bill and me and myself will go down and open an account, and we could get with Bruce to cut that check down from you now. Yeah, so we can do that, because you're gone from,
I'll be back on,
leaving the 3rd, or you're leaving
maybe 31st,
31st, okay.
and I'll be back on late in the afternoon at 11.
Okay. So
I'm
yeah,
also gonna be at a class reunion on the 4th.
4th.
Yes.
Like I said, I'll be available from my headset.
Would you be able to do Zoom?
Yeah, I will be able to.
I'm gonna be, so probably not, but I can talk,
We can do Zoom, but via phone.
yeah.
You don't have to have your camera on.
Huh? You don't have
The
to.
camera doesn't
Yeah, you
need
don't have to have the camera on. You can do Zoom via phone.
Okay.
And then that way we can have you on with, and then you'd be available on
Yeah.
Zoom also. Okay, good.
And then the following meeting, after that one's gonna be in the evening, right?
So the 4th is at 10 a.m.
Oh,
And
it
then the following one, the following one would be the 11th through 5:30.
Yeah.
Did you say 5:30?
No, it's gonna be at 10.
10 a.m. on the 4th.
4th, but the 11th.
5:30.
Okay.
The first Monday, the park board meets in here.
Yeah, so we can't do them on that. But through August, we'll be weekly, and then we'll discuss, we'll be switching that again. Okay, so Roy will be available on the 4th at 10 a.m. via Zoom. And Ralph as well. By phone. You'll be here, and you'll be here. Because that's our public hearing that day. Make sure we have a forum. Okay. All right. So, any more comments, concerns?
I do, I have a conversation I'd like to bring back to the table that we kind of hit last week at the end, but also watching social media, different comments come up on the board change requires emergency management notification. And I just wanted to open the floor to you guys to bring this up. Is there something we need to be looking at the fire district to better ourselves in the future, or can we assist the county with that emergency management notification? Because it's obviously a hot topic with people in our district and the community. I just want to make sure that we're, as a board, not doing something we should be doing, or if there's something step out and make better.
We did our due diligence the night of the fire and getting the notifications started, and we were in constant communication with emergency management at the fire incident command post level. What happened after that in regards to community communication was basically on them. I was contacted this last week directly by a citizen who had specifically asked if we would take some additional role in that, and I referred that person back to Mark. Because they were looking for a connection with the emergency management and the board and with the district. And I was like, yeah, that's a topic that we don't have the answers for. Evidently, she may or may not.
Yeah, she did via messenger. I think it was
Okay.
not through the district email.
She said she would get a hold of you.
Yeah, she did.
But at this point, I don't know where there could be any additional layers of involvement from us. We already have an established program. It's just what the county's level of involvement is and what they do with it.
I just make sure we're not missing a link that we should be involved in.
I think
As a district, not board, but as a district.
we definitely, as even as us as the provider, do what we can communicating with the public.
I think you guys are doing a great job socially stepping out.
Yeah, that situation got a little bit heated in the direction we were taking it, so it's kind of something we want to stay out of.
Yeah, I've been following the social media too, and it seems like it's directed towards the EOC, if you will, the county. Kind of, everybody's saying they dropped the ball. Not what you guys did, because you communicated with the command post and the overhead and everything. But it seems like at the commissioner level, with their management thing for the city county, that's where it's being aimed at. There's a lack there, because they're talking about how Jackson County does all this.
Yeah, and could definitely be a little bit more robust. However, that's up to them to do.
Yeah.
From them, I mean, we can do just as much as we want.
And you guys been, like Vinny said, you guys have been doing a great job with the ER stuff you put out there. It's excellent.
Yeah, there were a number of people who definitely knew everything there needed to be, that they needed to know. What some particular aspects of it that I think occurred were that folks hadn't really signed up the way they thought they had signed up, or they had been signed up under a previous account, and that notification wasn't going out properly. We even had comments come back through our office where folks no longer living in that Borchardt, Subtle Loop area were getting notified now that they lived in the Redwood area, and they wanted to know why. It was just a matter of updating their credentials. So, I mean, the system is in place, it's just a matter of what people are doing to be connected.
And you have notification on Savage Creek, which is split, Jackson, Josephine County.
Right,
Jackson County's
yeah.
getting their notification quicker, earlier.
Yeah, and the emergency management was definitely very, very active with everything we were doing, so.
Well, can you let us know if there's something that comes up in the future that we need to be involved in that would help push things or?
Well, obviously you guys just being, creating some sort of a communication platform, whatever that ends up being, whatever it looks like, will definitely be helpful. I mean, we don't really have a website right now, we have the social media component. Outside of that, the notifications are as they are. I mean, you have to be signed up with the citizen alert system if you want to be in that loop. And it's not instantaneous, like when the fire first broke out, that alert does not go out that way, it doesn't work that way. It wasn't until I got into the command post and was able to contact emergency management and make the phone call and say, these are the zones we want to have alerted. And then they have to pump that out through the Everbridge system. But it's going to be into the instant far enough to where we know we're not necessarily catching it right now, which a lot of times that gap can vary from minutes to hours before we realize, hey, this is something we need to work on. So it comes from the fire side first, typically. But it's all about whether or not people want to be properly connected with that system. Otherwise, there's a ton of other ways people get informed.
I've noticed, like wildlife engineers and several different people putting out quite a bit of river safety, river safety ads. Maybe there's something we need to look into as a district to start sponsoring public announcement, for education for the fire notification, not to say, we'll wait for somebody else to do it, maybe we should step forward and start saying exactly what you said. This is where you go to sign up. If you want to be notified, you want to update your notification, which would cost money for it.
Over the weekend, I did get a reminder from an ex-emergency manager, Sarah, who had said that a number of years ago, her and I worked on a program that got a lot of those things listed for the community. Much more of those options are available now for being in the loop. And she says, well, what do you think we should do to get that out there again? And about that same time, I got a call from the Courier wanting to do a story specifically on this topic. What can be done for the community to be notified quicker and more robustly, if you will, on a regular basis because of the disappointment that people came out of this last incident from. And so I know the Courier is working on that article. So they're putting a lot of this stuff out there as well. So I know there's already a push to do something, and I don't know that it's not a bad idea that the district takes some form of public education campaign opportunity. They put something out there, but it might be good to try to connect with that story as it comes out. So Chrissy would be a contact if you don't see it come out like soon. I don't know when she planned to publish it, but she also is going to make contact with Sarah and try to get a lot of a list of things. Air quality, smoke management, Everbridge alerting, watch duty, pulse point. She had a list. It was Darius, you would be hard pressed not to be able to. The community just needs to know what options are out there.
I think that's more of an issue, so we've had several platform changes in communications, like emergency communications, so people that signed up 5 years ago.
Yeah,
3 years ago, aren't gonna be necessarily on that same platform, thinking that, not even maybe understanding the platform change.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big issue too.
else on? All right. Well, we'll move into executive session. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025, at 11:57 a.m. Josephine County Rural Fire Protection Board will now meet in executive session for the following agenda items. Applegate Valley RFPD District 9 versus Josephine County and Josephine County RFPD case number 24 CV 59327. Accredited representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Accredited representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. Accredited representatives of the news media, please identify yourself. We have none. The recorder and all recording devices, including cell phones, will now be turned off at 11:58 a.m. And hopefully I'll be able to pause this correctly.